Proverbs 27, the Passion Translation. Subheader: Heed wisdom's warnings. Never brag about the plans you have for tomorrow, for you don't have a clue what tomorrow may bring to you. Let someone else honor you for your accomplishments, for self-praise is never appropriate. It's easier to carry a heavy boulder and a ton of sand than to be provoked by a fool and have to carry that burden. The rage and anger of others can be overwhelming, but it's nothing compared to jealousy's fire. It's better to be corrected openly if it stems from hidden love. You can trust a friend who wounds you with his honesty, but your enemy's pretended flattery comes from insincerity. When your soul is full, you turn down even the sweetest honey. But when your soul is starving, every bitter thing becomes sweet. Like a bird that has fallen from its nest is the one who is dislodged from his home. Sweet friendships refresh the soul and awaken our hearts with joy. For good friends are like the anointing oil that yields the fragrant incense of God's presence. So never give up on a friend or abandon a friend of your father, for in the day of your brokenness, you won't have to run to a relative for help. A friend nearby is better than a relative far away. My son, when you walk in wisdom, my heart is filled with gladness. For the way you live is proof that I've not taught you in vain. A wise, shrewd person discerns the danger ahead and prepares himself, but the naive simpleton never looks ahead and suffers the consequences. Co-sign for one you barely know, and you will pay a great price. Anyone stupid enough to guarantee the loan of another deserves to have his property seized in payment. Do you think you're blessing your neighbors when you sing at the top of your lungs early in the morning? Don't be fooled. They'll curse you for doing it. An endless drip, drip, drip from a leaky faucet and the words of a cranky, nagging wife have the same effect. Can you stop the north wind from blowing or grasp a handful of oil? That's easier than to stop her from complaining. It takes a grinding wheel to sharpen a blade, and so one person sharpens the character of another. Tend an orchard, and you'll have fruit to eat. Serve the master's interests, and you'll receive honor that's sweet. Just as no two faces are exactly alike, so every heart is different. Death and destruction are never filled, and the desires of men's hearts are insatiable. Fire is the way to test the purity of silver and gold, but the character of a man is tested by giving him a measure of fame. You can beat a fool half to death and still never beat the foolishness out of him. A shepherd should pay close attention to the faces of his flock and hold close to his heart the condition of those he cares for. A man's strength, power, and riches will one day fade away. Not even nations endure forever. Take care of your responsibilities and be diligent in your business, and you will have more than enough, an abundance of food, clothing, and plenty for your household. Proverbs 27, Amplified Translation. Subheader: Warnings and Instructions. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. Let another praise you, and not your own mouth, a stranger, and not your own lips. Stone is heavy and the sand weighty, but a fool's unreasonable wrath is heavier and more burdensome than both of them. Wrath is cruel, and anger is an overwhelming flood, but who is able to endure and stand before the sin of jealousy? Better is an open reprimand of loving correction than love that is hidden. Faithful are the wounds of a friend who corrects you out of love and concern, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful because they serve his hidden agenda. He who is satisfied loathes honey, but to the hungry soul any bitter thing is sweet. Like a bird that wanders from her nest with its comfort and safety, so is a man who wanders from his home. Oil and perfume make the heart glad, so does the sweetness of a friend's counsel that comes from the heart. Do not abandon your own friend in your father's friend, and do not go to your brother's house in the day of your disaster. Better is a neighbor who is near than a brother who is far away. My son, be wise, and make my heart glad, that I may reply to him who reproaches, reprimands, or criticizes me. A prudent man sees evil and hides himself, and avoids it. But the naive, who are easily misled, continue on and are punished by suffering the consequences of sin. The judge tells the creditor, take the garment of one who is surety, guarantees a loan for a stranger, and hold him in pledge when he is surety for an immoral woman, for it is unlikely the debt will be repaid. He who blesses his neighbor with a loud voice early in the morning, it will be counted as a curse to him, for it will either be annoying or his purpose will be suspect. A constant dripping on a day of steady rain and a contentious, quarrelsome woman are alike. Whoever attempts to restrain her criticism might as well try to stop the wind, and grasps oil with his right hand. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens and influences another through discussion. He who tends the fig tree will eat its fruit, and he who faithfully protects and cares for his master will be honored. As in water face reflects face, so the heart of man reflects man. Sheol, the place of the dead, and Abaddon, the underworld, are never satisfied, nor are the eyes of man ever satisfied. The refining pot is for silver, and the furnace for gold, to separate the impurities of the metal. And each is tested by the praise given to him, and his response to it, whether humble or proud. Even though you pound a hardened, arrogant fool who rejects wisdom in a mortar with a pestle like grain, yet his foolishness will not leave him. Be diligent to know the condition of your flocks, and pay attention to your herds, for riches are not forever, nor does a crown endure to all generations. When the grass is gone, the new growth is seen, and herbs of the mountain are gathered in. The lambs will supply wool for your clothing, and the goats will bring the price of a field. And there will be enough goat's milk for your food, for the food of your household, and for the maintenance of your maids. Proverbs 27, New Living Translation. Don't brag about tomorrow, since you don't know what the day will bring. Let someone else praise you, not your own mouth, a stranger, not your own lips. A stone is heavy and sand is weighty, but the resentment caused by a fool is even heavier. Anger is cruel, and wrath is like a flood, but jealousy is even more dangerous. An open rebuke is better than hidden love. Wounds from a sincere friend are better than many kisses from an enemy. A person who is full refuses honey, but even bitter food tastes sweet to the hungry. A person who strays from home is like a bird that strays from its nest. The heartfelt counsel of a friend is as sweet as perfume and incense. Never abandon a friend, either yours or your father's. When disaster strikes, you won't have to ask your brother for assistance. It's better to go to a neighbor than to a brother who lives far away. Be wise, my child, and make my heart glad. Then I will be able to answer my critics. A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. Get security from someone who guarantees a stranger's debt. Get a deposit if he does it for foreigners. A loud and cheerful greeting early in the morning will be taken as a curse. A quarrelsome wife is as annoying as constant dripping on a rainy day. Stopping her complaints is like trying to stop the wind, or trying to hold something with greased hands. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. As workers who tend a fig tree are allowed to eat the fruit, so workers who protect their employer's interests will be rewarded. As a face is reflected in water, so the heart reflects the real person. Just as death and destruction are never satisfied, so human desire is never satisfied. Fire tests the purity of silver and gold, but a person is tested by being praised. You cannot separate fools from their foolishness, even though you grind them like grain with mortar and pestle. Know the state of your flocks, and put your heart into caring for your herds, for riches don't last forever, and the crown might not be passed to the next generation. After the hay is harvested, and the new crop appears, and the mountain grasses are gathered in, your sheep will provide wool for clothing, and your goats will provide the price of a field. And you will have enough goat's milk for yourself, your family, and your servant girl.